Mike, this is June 1st, 2026. What is the significance of this date in history?
Well, it's the Air France date because
You're
we just did
absolutely
that. We did an episode on the Air France crash, the 447, the Airbus, the 330. It was June
right.
1st.
Oh, it was. Yeah. Yep. That's right. And that is what we're leading into because we want you to check this out. No, Air France 447 was the one in Brazil, right?
The one that left Brazil and then ended up in the Atlantic.
Yes. 447 Brazil. It was lost. Everyone's lost on board. And there's more significance to this, too, because there's the lawsuit. And this is a crazy story when it comes down to it, because we started you told me about it, I think, earlier this week. You were like, oh, dude, they just settled the lawsuit.
Yeah.
I was like, didn't they settle the lawsuit like 10 years ago?
You would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, the crash happened a long time ago. And you're like, well, what's going on with that? But so here's what happens. And if you want to go back, I think you need to go back and listen to the Hot Topic episode. It was on February 20th of this year. We covered the whole thing, and it actually got a lot of plays, I think, too. So people liked it. So go back and listen to that. So from 2011, a French judge ordered Air France to pay $127,000 compensation to families of each victim. That was the 2009 crash of the Air France crash. Now, this was under the Montreal Convention. And when that happened, the families weren't happy, and they kept pushing them to prosecute Airbus and Air France criminally for the liability of this accident. And they wanted to charge them with manslaughter. And I guess you can do that in the French courts. And I don't know. You think?
Yeah, I have no idea
how that works with the liability. And they were saying that Air France, their procedures caused the accident because the pilots didn't know how to act. And then Airbus made a faulty pitot-static system, and that's what caused the plane to crash. So they're all liable for manslaughter. Now I'm like, all right, I guess. But the courts kept dropping this case. So they dropped it in July
I feel
20.
like it's a stretch, like,
yeah.
We all know why. Pilot error is the biggest contributor to this.
That was the biggest one for sure. The guys just didn't understand what the airplane was telling them. Now it was a catastrophic icing incident that caused the icing of the pitot-static system.
But what caused the icing? Flying into a thunderstorm that they shouldn't have been doing. We could debate this all day, but somehow the lawsuit went through.
Yeah, and these guys are flying into, when you come off the South Atlantic there's some nasty weather.
I mean, it's like Airbus gets sued for it, but how many Airbuses have been flying in the world, and how many have done this? Yeah. It's not a design problem.
So, but that's the weird part about this and how this kept coming up in the courts. And so they dropped the case against Airbus in July 2019, and then the case against Air France got dropped right after that. So then the prosecutor said there's not enough ground. The magistrate says not enough grounds, not enough to prosecute him. So then in 2021, a public prosecutor in Paris, they brought him up again on charges, and they did it again. And the trial opened in 2022, and they faced the same involuntary manslaughter charge. And then they announced shortly after that they're not going to continue with the prosecution because there's not enough evidence to prosecute. Well, the third time's a charm, I guess, because finally they opened another trial September 2025, and on May 2026, just last month, companies were found guilty of corporate manslaughter. So corporate manslaughter is murder was the case that they gave me. That's Snoop Dogg rap right there.
There you go.
Everybody hit dub right there. Murder was a case. This is corporate manslaughter was the case that they gave me. I think I could make a song about that, Mike. What do you think? Yo, DJT here with pure corporate manslaughter. Yeah. No.
Probably not.
All right. Don't cut that from the show. I like that.
I'm not cutting it. It's unedited. Just don't swear we don't do that.
So they rung up the companies to pay max fine, which is 225,000 euros to the victims of the accident. So again, in the end, I mean, they're going to get another payout, but it doesn't bring anyone back.
It's 17 years ago. It's a long time.
It's been a long time. But this did play out in the courts again. Now, could that get appealed or whatever? I don't know. I'm not a magistrate, so.
I just thought about, remember we were talking about, it's been a while ago, how they used to sell life insurance and like vending machines when you get on airplanes.
Remember we
Like
did
at
that
the
show
airport?
about that guy that bought the life
That's
insurance?
right.
And then
Yeah.
yeah.
My mom was like, I remember them doing that. And I was like, really?
Yeah, it's wild. You could buy it right there. Like the guy bought it from like a vending machine.
It's like buying a lotto ticket.
Yeah, and
For your
that guy
family, not for you.
Right, not for you. Well, that guy had rigged it because he put his buddy on the plane, took a life insurance policy on him, and there was a bomb in his suitcase that he had given him. You got to go back and listen to that show. I think that was, it had to be like October last year, maybe September, October last year. Go look for that one. I forget what that was. It was a domestic flight. That's a U.S. flight. It was like from Louisiana to like New Mexico.
I don't know what made me think about that. Just paying out people after a crash. So I thought, oh yeah, insurance.
So not a good day for Airbus and Air France, but that's how it goes down, and it is this day in history. So
yeah, it's very ironic that came out like the week before the anniversary.
Yeah, so. I agree. Maybe that's what they were working for. I don't know. What we want you to think about too, though, is we just did a hot topic on Air France Flight 358, which was going into Toronto. That's going to come out next week, so we want you to check that out. But that is going to involve some weather and landing long, which is going to play into the discussion about braking action that we're going to talk about today. And let's get into that right now, Mike. What do you think about braking action? Because you've lived and flown enough in the history of aviation to see the changes happen. And how much have these rules really affected your life and changed everything for the better?
We'll go with nil.
Nil? That's possibly a braking action.
But yeah, the changes haven't. I don't know. I guess the verbiage has changed, right? But the idea is the same. The way we use it is the same. I mean, you get your landing data back a little differently now, I guess. But I can't say that it's made a huge difference.
Yeah. So prior to,
I guess they try to make it more consistent. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the big thing was that the switch to the new braking action would tell you different parts of the runway might have varying conditions. And that's like the biggest thing that came of this. And I think maybe it's more from like a liability standpoint to say like, well, we told you that the first third was different than the last third.
I guess, but what do? You go with whatever the worst third is, and you just use that for the whole thing, I would think, right?
I would probably hope that that's the case. As we saw in Air France, they didn't land in the first third of the runway.
In the first third, and then it gets good. So we'll just land halfway down the runway. How's that sound?
That's what Air France decided, and they ended up in a ditch. So, yeah, that doesn't work so good. So the old thing was based on what they called a mu factor, and it was a function of friction. And it was actually the higher number was bad. The low number was okay. The high number was bad. Do you remember that, Mike? That used to screw everybody up. And I got a buddy when I was an instructor flying T1s in Oklahoma, they gave us the keys to the beach jet. Now there were guys that they call them FAPEs, first assignment instructor pilots. So the first time they get their assignment, they're going to give them an instructor slot. And you say, well, how can this guy be an instructor if he has no flight time? Well, he can, because they want him to continue to fly and get better. Now, when you're done flying your jet and training, like you're an expert in it, like you're so good at it. Yeah, you're going to have to learn to be an instructor and tell people, teach other people how to fly. And that was tough because, you were just a student yourself. And now all of a sudden you're only like 23 years old. And now, you're teaching people to fly that just are the same rank as you, and they're brand new. Sometimes there's people that are higher ranks than you and you're still teaching them. But that's what they did. And these guys would build hours and then they would go on to the next platform. But the reality is they still don't have a lot of real world experience. Now, flying the T1, we would get kicked the keys to the airplane and you could do like a instructor cross country. And that's good because you build time, you get away from the base, you get away from the training environment. Hopefully you fly with somebody else that's got a lot of real world experience. Like I would take guys all around the place and I would get things done that I need to get done. Like I would get across country and be like, I got to do an interview with the Navy Reserve in Pennsylvania. So that's where we're going. Who wants to go? And somebody would be like, oh, okay, I'll go with you. I've never been to Pennsylvania. I'm like, good, let's go. I took another guy. We did the Hudson River run. He had never seeing the foliage in New England. And we, then I run the Hudson River with him, and he's like, I don't think we should be doing this. I'm like, shh, just say your call sign. It's your Air Force call sign. It doesn't matter. But those guys didn't have a lot of experience doing things like that. So my buddy, he takes a jet with one of his buddies. That's not, I forget what the rules were, but he was with someone that I should have known better, I think. And they went into Denver Centennial, which is pretty close to it's near like Colorado Springs. I think that's probably a good representation of this. So you have to look it up and get closer. But it's one runway, and it's pretty long. But they went up there and it was snowing. And again, they don't have a lot of experience in the snow. And so they get a MEU report that's like 99 or something, which is not good. And they were like, oh, 99, that's good. It's almost 100% braking. It's great. And they go in, and he said he touched down, in the normal touchdown zone. It was snowing like crazy. And he said the airplane just kept going. And that jet had just brakes, no thrust reversers, and it had anti-skid. But he said they just kept going. And they were just looking at each other.
Bad feeling, Yeah,
like they went down like 9,000 feet, and he said they stopped at like the last brick on the runway, and he had just enough like friction to get the jet like turned around, because he had used like differential thrust and like turn the thing around, and it was it was not good. So yeah, actually it's the other way around. Like it's the MEU is the low MEU is bad. The high MEU. So he said MEU is 1. He was like, well, it's not high, that's low. So it's good braking.
Yeah, you started confusing me too. I was like,
yeah, I had it backwards. So the MEU value was like 1, and that was bad. And they thought it was good. They're like, number 1, that's excellent. So this is where things got confusing in the old world of things, and it didn't really give you and they would run like a truck down the runway and slam on the brakes and be like, yeah, this is what the MEU action is. And then they would put it out on the ATIS. So when you checked in, you would get that things. Now there's an incident that happens in 2005 that kind of gets the ball rolling with why this changes. Now this comes up again later because there was another incident that's kind of run in again. And this is what it takes things to cause, changes in what we do. It's usually an accident or an incident that changes what it is. But this is Southwest Flight 1248 in the Chicago Midway, Mike. You remember this accident?
Yeah, for sure.
And this is a big deal because it's Southwest's kind of hits the headline for everybody.
The first fatality.
Yeah, it's their first fatality. The jet goes off the end of the runway and hits a couple cars and kills a kid in one of the cars.
Yep.
Which is super bad. But this is interesting because the jet takes off late from Baltimore, and they get late because of a ground delay into Midway. And now it's snowing like crazy. Now a ground delay program, like I don't even kind of talk about like what that means. You deal with it quite a bit.
They're reducing the amount of flow of airplanes into an airport. So if you're on the ground X amount of miles away, they're going to restrict your ability to take off when you're going to that airport. Like, so for this one was Midway, you said. So there's a ground report delay program. They're going to give you an estimated departure time. And it could be up to, I don't know how many hours. It could be a long time. It could be a short time. It just depends on how bad the flow is. And, a lot of times they restrict it to the closer airplanes because that's, they're going to get there quicker, right? So they don't want the highways overloaded getting into the airport, basically.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, if they only had a ground delay program for like when everyone leaves work, at 4 p.m. or whatever it is, like, no, you're not leaving till 6. That's how it is.
People would go crazy. And they do go crazy on the airplane.
We freak out too. Be like, you got to be kidding me! Ground delay program. So that's
the worst is when they come out with it after you've already boarded the airplane, because now you're like, now what do I do? It's nice if they do it before you board and you tell the people at the gate and all that. But after you board and push, and now they come out with it, you're like, oh my gosh, now what?
And you can see this, like if you just go to the Googles and put in like FAA ground delay, like you can see it.
Sure.
The FAA will show you like who's in ground delay, and if there's bad weather in New York. Now, you shouldn't go deciding, how long you can sit down and order your Italian dinner and then still make it to the airport. Don't do that, because they cancel ground delay programs.
Yeah, they can.
As soon as they start, because that's what we do. It's like if I'm in Fort Lauderdale or something, and I'm waiting for the ground delay program to go up for thunderstorm like mitigation in New York, and I'm like, yes, I'm not gonna time out. And then all of a sudden they lift it because nothing happens, and then you're like, oh no, I have to go do all that work. But in this case, Southwest is going to Midway, and there's a ground delay program because 8 inches of snow is falling. Actually, it had already fallen. It was still falling. A half-mile viz in snow right now in Chicago Midway. They got freezing fog, and there's crosswind gusts at 12 knots. Not very good. Now, if we talk about Chicago Midway, Mike, you've been there a bunch of times. So have I. It's an interesting place because you've got 4 intersecting runways. It looks like a giant H. It's crazy. It looks like a big hashtag. Yo, hit the hashtag, smash the like. Nicole said, "Don't do that because I sound like a weirdo." But yeah, it looks like a big hashtag.
That's what put her over the edge. That one,
Yeah,
like not
that's
the other
one.
5,000 things.
Wow, what other 5,000 things? Look at this. Bringing the show is going to a new low here. It's a crazy. The airport is wild, and the first time I went there, I was like, man, I don't know what's going on here. And the runways are short.
It's short.
Yeah, there's none of them like 6,500 feet. And there's a lot of corporate jets there too. So you might say, oh well, the traffic's flowing here, but you will have a corporate jet all of a sudden blast off on another runway because they only need.
Well, and that's where Southwest had that corporate jet cut them off, and they had to do a go around.
Absolutely, this is a high environment, high tempo airport, and the other thing about it is it's smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood. Now, I'm going to tell you why that's a good thing. Because if you have it overnight at Midway and they put you close to the hotel, there are a lot of really good places to go eat on overnight.
Pizza places.
The pizza places are awesome. I've told the story where we were at Compass and I had the foil and we started heating up the pizza in the oven. And the passengers are like, oh, it smells so delicious. I'm like, oh, it's not for you. That's my pizza. You're going to get a cold
Here's your Biscoff cookie.
Something. Yeah, in a Biscoff cookie. You're welcome. 3-1 Center is the accident runway that's going to happen. It's 6,522 feet long. And like we talk about the 4 runways there, there's the neighborhoods. Now, what's cool about Southwest is that their corporate culture allows these crews to make decisions kind of regarding safety and operational constraints more towards the pilots, using their professional knowledge and their judgment as far as versus saying, dispatch is like, we got to get these flights because I need this gate, I need that. And at this time, I don't know if the culture's changed there or not. If you're a Southwest guy, go ahead and let us know. Tell us if we're talking crazy. If I'm talking crazy talk right now. 203-699-6792. Drop that in there. Send us a text and tell us what's going on, or send us an email, blackbox01@yahoo.com, and tell us what's going on, because I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on Midway. Look, I've been on approaching to Midway too at Compass, and I think it was like 6,000 feet. I'm going 250 knots, and Southwest passes me. He passed me, Mike. Now, theoretically, that's impossible because everybody's supposed to go 250 knots below 10,000 feet. However, in Midway, if your tail says Southwest and that's your call sign, there's another set of rules for you. But that's a whole different story. And it wasn't the tailwind, because the tailwind would have been pushing me too. So he went right under me. And how about that? So the crew's flying, and they know what's going on. The captain's got over 4,000 hours of 737. He's got an Air Force mill background. The FO's got over 8,000 hours total time, 2,000 in the 737. And he was a captain at Mesaba. So he was flying most likely the Saab, I would guess, at Mesaba. Could have been
CRJ. They had CRJs too. I don't know what,
This is 2005, so maybe.
Yeah. There's a good chance it was a Saab. But
both these guys are very experienced, and a captain at Mesaba, he's got no problem flying in the snow. He's based in Minneapolis. That's where Mesaba is. So
yeah,
he ain't scared. So the captain gets a weather brief from the company advising that 3-1 Center is a better option, with the braking reported good on the first third of the runway and poor on the remaining third. Now, the company's getting those reports. This is before the RCAM stuff comes out and the matrix changes to tell you the different reporting action. This is just a MU-based thing, and that's how you would get reported. So the flight enters holding because there's an air traffic control delay, and they're going to clear the runways of snow. This is why it would have been great. We had Ian lined up for today's show, but he ended up running into a problem, couldn't make it. These are the questions that we would pepper him with all these delays and everything like that. And Actually, Mike told me, he's like, start making a list of all the questions that we need to ask him. And I literally did. I was cutting and pasting questions, and I already have a full page. So, Ian, if you listen to this show, like, man, you better bring, you better have your sweat bandana on, your 1970s basketball sweat bandana on before you start the show, because we're coming, baby. We're coming. We're going to have the question.
How many times have we been doing an episode where like, oh, we need to talk to Ian about that. We need to talk about Ian. And then it's like, and then you forget about it, you know?
Yeah, you totally forget. So we got to cut those up. But I made a tab for that. So we got it. We got a running tab. So these guys are in holding, and they're talking about the weather, and they know what's going on. Now, if you're in holding, like, this is a great time for you to go ahead and talk to the other guy about what's going on. Of course, there's other things you got to talk about. Anytime you go to holding, you got to think about your fuel. And look, Mike, kind of like we talked about in the Air France accident, if you're in holding and they're clearing snow in this runway, what are you thinking about? What should you be thinking about?
Well, if they've got snow on the runway, you're definitely thinking about braking action.
That for sure.
And landing distances and things like that, right?
Yeah, and maybe even an alternate, like, hey, where else could we go that maybe?
Well, yeah, that goes with any hold, right? Because if it's closed for snow removal, it could take a while.
Yeah, you got to look at your fuel, and that's something we do. As soon as we get into holding, you say the first thing you want to do is like, how long can I stay here in holding? Because air traffic control's got other things going on. You need to worry about yourself, because you can't just be sitting there waiting for them. Well, they'll tell me when they're ready. Well, yeah, they will, but if you need to leave before that, you need to tell them you're leaving, and this is why, and where you're going. And I've had that happen. Have you had that happen and been holding and been like, I need to leave?
Yeah, you'd be like, we can do one more turn. And you're kind of stretching that, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes when you say that to them, suddenly, like, they get priority. They'll be like, okay, you after this turn, you're cleared in, blah, blah, blah. And
have you ever been holding and you know that you're getting tight and someone else says that they got one more turn and they get cleared, and you're like, son of a, like, I should have said something, you know, because now you know you just...
I'm usually planning where I'm going that I'm going to enjoy more than the destination, but no, yeah, that's definitely uncomfortable, because there's only a couple people that are going to get to go. So if suddenly that guy says he's got to go and you're like, oh no, it'd be like waiting in line for the bathroom, you know, like, no, I really got to go. Well, that guy's going to get it. You're not. So, so those are some of the things you're talking about when you're in holding and stuff. And these guys are definitely doing that stuff. So the FO runs the data on in the computer. They had a tablet.
I remember them having a tablet.
Yeah, but what he does, Mike, is that he runs it twice. So he runs the first one with good conditions, and they get a 640-foot stopping margin that's left in so they have the runway available by 640 feet. Then he runs it again with a full runway that's fair braking, and they end up with 40 feet left over. So quite a bit of constraint there comes in, where they're not playing with a lot of extra distance based on the two stopping parameters, the good and the fair reporting data. Now, the data assumes that the thrust reversal will be deployed immediately at touchdown. And here's the other thing, is that other airplanes are getting in and they're landing on 3-1 center and this 4,500 RVR. So other people are landing. And
well, if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, and that's kind of like one of those things, right? Because other people are getting in and doing it, so you're like, like, wow, why I guess I have to be able to do it too. So then Tower advises them again, half the runway's good braking, half the runway's poor. They don't tell you which one is which, but that's what you get.
But you just assume the whole thing is poor. Like, you don't...
Right? That would be a thing. So they end up coming down. They've talked about all the parameters. They touch down in the touchdown zone. But the captain fails to deploy the thrust reversers. The thrust reversers don't come out until 18 seconds after touchdown. The first officer actually pushes the captain's hands off the thrust levers and deploys them himself.
Wow.
The jet departs the end of the runway, crashes through the ILS antenna, a metal fence, and then 3 cars are hit, and a 6-year-old boy is killed, and his family of 4 is seriously injured. A second car got hit. 4 more people got hurt. There's 18 people on the airplane that get injured from either the impact or the evacuation. Like we talked about, if you see pictures of this, the slides deploy, they're all over the cars, and people are like sliding down the slides and hitting things. And it's snowing too, so this is kind of what happened. So again, we go into the NTSB investigation, and obviously weather's gonna be a factor in this, but the NTSB looks right away about what equipment was functioning and malfunctioning on the aircraft. So they pull the TRs. TRs are functioning normally. It was pilot error. The captain never attempted to deploy the thrust reversers after the initial attempt at touchdown. Now we talked
was
about
there like on the CVR to the? I'm sure he said something. The first officer would have said no reverse or something, right?
he didn't say anything. I don't have the CVRs, but he was looking at it. But this is what distracted them. The two of them, there was a new auto brake system on the aircraft, and they were both getting used to seeing it and using it. So they selected the auto brakes. Now, what we do in the auto brakes is you can select different settings, and depending upon what you need from the brakes will touch down again, depend upon like the system. So is it, weight on wheels? Is it a wheel spool up? The nose wheel touchdown? There's different parameters for different airplanes. But the brakes will immediately start applying. They don't wait for you to do it. And once they do, they're going to do it at a deceleration rate that you've selected. And you should have those numbers in your performance software that tell you which number to select. You could also select max if you needed to. Mike, on a 6,500-foot runway with fair braking condition, I'm probably going to select max. I don't know about you.
I mean, I don't know we don't have that. We don't land with max. Max only for, takeoff, but we have low, medium, and then manual. Like I'd probably set medium and then I would get on it myself,
Yeah, I don't.
Which would be our max, I guess.
Yeah, your max on the Airbus, and they're all different on different airplanes too. So you'd have to see what it is, but you're going to use the maximum possible available to you, like you're saying. Like, if you land,
I'm going to land firm. It's not going to be a butter landing. Because you want to get that friction with the tire and onto the pavement.
Absolutely, these are things that are going to help you get the airplane stopping. And that's all you should be thinking about is stopping. So these guys are looking at the auto brake system and the airplane's not stopping. But they're like, well, maybe it's gee whiz. Like, this is how it works. And that's when the FO realizes that the TRs aren't out. And then he does it himself. So he pulls the TRs himself. But which is interesting at your company, Mike, you guys have actually a call out that's reverses green, right? Do you still have that call out?
So we will say, and that's why I was saying, did he say anything? Because like you're supposed to say reverse green, meaning they're working, or no reverse because ding dong didn't get him in, And I tell guys all the time, you're the guy in the left seat's only there because he got hired before you. So not an evacuation, but a rejected takeoff. Maybe that captain didn't get the reversers in there because he's freaking out, right? So tell him no reverse,
So my company, there's no reverser call.
None at all.
I have spoilers, and the next call is 60 knots. Now, I look at them because that's the way I was trained at the other company. And I say in my head, reverser's green. I literally say that in my head because I've called out many times, no reverse number 2, no reverse on 1.
Do you guys ever land without them? Like, do you guys ever land without them?
Absolutely not. No.
Exactly. So it would be weird to not see him, right? So, I mean, I guess make your own call out if he doesn't put them in, because last thing you want to do is tell the FAA why you didn't say anything when you go off the end of the runway with the reverser stowed.
I agree. And that's why I'll call out no reverse. And the captain will be like, I can't believe you saw that. I'm like, how do you not see that?
Right? Good on you.
But the only reason I do it is because I was trained to do it at another company. And I mean, that's a positive cross, learn behavior. But again, I don't say it out loud, but I think it in my head. Same thing as when I start an engine. I say oil pressure rising N1. I say that in my head every time.
Is that from the Air Force?
Yeah, because you want to see that. Because if you don't have that, you got a problem.
Yeah, well, we got FADEC now. It does all that stuff for us. We don't do nothing.
You don't do anything. Although the FADEC and the triple, all I have to see is positive oil pressure by light off, by EGT rise. That's the only thing it doesn't monitor for. It'll do everything. Try to start the engine 5 times today with a hot start.
The only thing we interrupt the start for would be a tailpipe fire or a loss of electrical power, like during startup, like you're doing your APU takes a crap or something, something that because the FADEC won't work at that point, right? But if it's a hot start or a hung start or something, you just let FADEC run its course, and it'll dry motor and everything.
Yeah, yeah, it's totally true. So this accident also points out the fact that they don't have the EMAS. We talked about that in the episode that you'll hear next week. The engineered materials arresting system. Again, it's just a crushed concrete that decelerates. It takes energy out of anything that's moving. In this case, an airplane that still has landing gear out. Hopefully, maybe even if it doesn't, it absorb it. But it's going to decelerate you to hopefully prevent you going into a fence or leaving the airfield or into a ditch. That'll come up later. But this aircraft, the Southwest flight, it went through a fence and then it crashes into the road. It goes into the highway. But another thing they cite in this accident is the inaccurate friction predictions. The pilots used the laptop's performance tool. It was relying on the older friction measurement guidelines and didn't give them a bad stopping margin. The misleading pilot reports, people were reporting good on the first half of the runway, but it was actually poor in the latter half during the accumulating snow. So this is where the old new braking action
And
didn't have any uniform.
the last half's probably harder to predict because by that point your brakes are already engaged, you're already slowing down. You don't really feel it as much now. If you land at 130 some knots and you don't feel it, you're going to know right away, right? Like,
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
It probably is harder to give an accurate estimation when you're only doing 50 knots, 40 knots.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So, I don't know.
So all this leads to a 2016 change. Yeah, it took them 11 years to get on it, but they did.
It's government, man.
Yeah, so they changed it to subjective pilot reports of good, fair, and poor, nil. They changed it into they get rid of the numerical surface friction readings as mu values. They get rid of those, and they put in this new RCAM system, which has a chart for you. So it is the what the heck is it? It's a runway conditions assessment matrix. So you get an assessment matrix, and there's a chart, and it'll give you a number. So if the runway's dry, it gives you a 6. So if you see 6, then you know, and they'll put it in the ATIS when you pull up the terminal information. It says 6. Okay. Actually, they won't even put it if it says that. But if there's a different factor on the runway, like say the rest of it's wet, it might say like 655 or something like that. Now, I've been into people that say, hey, if I went out and got a big slushy at 7-Eleven, went out on the runway and dumped it on the first third of the runway in the middle of July, would that mean that there's ice and slush? So it'd be a 1 or a 2 on the first part of the runway?
Who's
I don't know.
asking you that question?
It's getting weird. It gets weird when that happens. But you can kind of take that number and then look at this chart and say, okay, I see what's going on. There could be a 5, it could be frost, or it could be wet, and then it gives you a deceleration directional control observation. So the braking deceleration is normal for the wheel and braking effort applied. Directional control is normal. That'd be for like a 5. Pilot braking action, good. So it kind of incorporates all these things into one kind of big chart, and it takes a lot of the guessing game out of it. So if you're like, what was that 3 again? Well, hey, let's look that up and we'll take a look at it. Now, if you're just a regular guy, then you can say, well, you can put that stuff into your landing performance stuff too, because it's going to
so the computer does all of it for us. But if the computer was broken or deferred or something, or the program went down, you're still going. So you got to figure out how to look it up, right? So, yeah. So you always have it as a backup, the chart and everything.
So this leads us into this other thing. So last week, the NTSB reported or recommended to the FAA revise its Runway Condition Assessment Matrix, RCAM, to better account for braking performance during periods of heavy rainfall. Now, this would factor into the Toronto flight that we're going to talk about next week that you guys will hear. But there were 11 overrun accidents between 2008 and 22 involving landings on wet runways, and the current RCAM does not account for progressive loss of wheel braking friction associated with increasing rainfall intensities, which can affect landing distance calculations. Now, there was a Miami, this was a P3 that was actually overrun at Jacksonville Naval Air Station. It was a P8 landing there, and I've landed at Navy Jacks, and literally there's just downpours from like the Florida thunderstorms, and like it's pouring on the first third of the runway, and like you're not IMC until you touch the ground on the runway, and then you can't see anything. And
Yep.
I was a new student. I had like 130 hours, and I'm flying a P3 Orion, and the instructor's just like, "What's your problem?" And I'm like, I can't see anything. That's kind of a problem. Oh, okay, whatever, dude. Like that's what I would get. But again, that's another story. But yeah, so this P8 lands at Navy Jacks, and there was heavy rain, like crazy rainfall, like torrential rainfall, at the end of the runway, and they couldn't stop, and they went off the end of the runway, and they almost went into the river. They were in the shallow river part of the water in the St. Johns River. It's a P8 737 to destroy. Honestly, it's destroyed. They probably pulled it out and drained, fixed it up. I don't know, but That's a huge problem. So this is coming up again, and I don't know. This is 2026, Mike. Maybe we'll see a change at your retirement ceremony. They'll come out with a new matrix, and we'll have to do a show on that. We'll call Captain Steve and say, "Hey, Captain Steve, we're retired like you now. Maybe you can give us some of your listeners, and we'll take them." But anyway, so this has come up again, and that's why I kind of wanted to bring it up. And I think there's some other stuff in there that we could talk to Ian about in there too, which would be good too. But anyways, that just kind of popped in there. A couple more things that popped up in the news, Mike. I don't know if you saw this. The MD-11 saga just keeps going on and on and on, and I'm not a part of it. I kind of enjoy, watching it from the bullpen. And honestly, my company keeps putting out more like yay raw stuff about how we're bringing back 2 jets this month and 5 next month, and there's going to be more and more. Now, this is the first time that I've seen the NTSB directly talk about this, and this clears up a lot of stuff. Because if you remember, when the initial accident happened, everyone's like, "Well, FedEx did some fixes on these planes, and UPS didn't do them and everything." So this kind of cleared up some of that mystery, because it was 2007 that FedEx found a jet that had, actually it was before that, in 2002, there was another operator that was not named. They found a jet where the actual bearing had failed, and the secondary lug had held the engine on the airplane.
2002, could that have been a passenger plane?
Could have been. So somebody found it, and they told them about it, and Boeing was like, "Okay, well, the afterlug should hold it." That's where that comes from. The afterlug should have held the thing on the plane. That obviously didn't happen to the UPS aircraft. Now, in 2007, FedEx found a jet where the lug had shifted, so the bearing had started to fail. They saw the failure, and they measured it with whatever one of their micrometers. It was like 0.03 inches or something. So you're talking about like very minimal thing, but the bearing was failing. And FedEx found it, and they told Boeing, and they're like, "What do we do about this?" And Boeing was like, "You should probably replace this lug assembly." So they gave them an actual fix. So FedEx was like, "You know what? We're going to do that." So FedEx was inspecting all of their bearings through all their cycles, and then they were replacing these lugs as they went. That's from 2007. So that's a long time for to be inspecting this. As far as I know, UPS didn't do that. Although anytime this comes up, they're not talking about what UPS did.
What FedEx found, was that communicated to UPS?
Yes, this stuff was all out there, because they told Boeing, like, this is what we're going to do, and Boeing was like, "Yeah, you should do that fix if you want to." So no one came out and said you had to do it.
Gotcha.
But they said this is recommended.
So all the operators were aware of it.
Yeah, and obviously the UPS accident, that the secondary lug did not hold the engine on the aircraft, and it departed.
Do you see someone's actually trying to sue the pilot from UPS, like the family or whatever? How does that even work?
I don't even know. I mean,
those guys were switched into that airplane like just 2 hours before. They were originally assigned to another airplane.
Yeah, I saw that too.
It's like Final Destination stuff,
I guess though, but if you think that,
it happens all the time, right?
Yeah. What if the airplane I was in was the one that was going to kill me, and God put his hand down and put me in the other one? Like, I don't know. How does that stuff work?
It's your time. But yeah, man, wow.
Yeah, that stuff's wild. So that's the NTSB update from the MD-11 stuff. Again, my company's going to fly them, so that's that. This is interesting. I really want to talk to Ian about this, and we're going to talk to him about this again. But this is the NTSB. What?
I said, "Dadgummit."
Dadgummit. The NTSB is asking the FAA to require mandatory ADS-B in. Now, the ADS-B in is the same as ADS-B out. It's just in the airplane. So now we can see each other the same way that air traffic control sees us. Like, I could see your exact position and your altitude and things like that. If you look at, I think your name's Jennifer Hamonday. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's in charge of the NTSB. Whenever she talks to the FAA kind of like pushes it aside to Congress, because they don't want to just start mandating things. And a lot of the stuff comes down to money. So the FAA just comes out and says, "Hey, all airlines, hear this. Hear ye. Install ADS-B in." And wow, that costs a lot of money. So it's more of a process than just the NTSB saying this.
We have it on some of our airplanes, but like the newer ones, not any of.
And that's a great point, Mike, because a lot of the newer aircrafts come with the software on board that it's just magic. You just upload a program and it can do it. And but a lot of the older airplanes can't do that. So it gets weird. Now, I forget, what does ADSB stand for? It's automatic directional system or something. Let me look it up. I can ask the
You keep talking.
So all it does is it just talks. It's everything talking to each other, and it shows you where everyone is. Now, they just updated it so you can get it. In my company, we don't have Wi-Fi in the jet, but you can see when you're on the ground. Like if you put the ADSB on, you can see where everybody else is at taxiing, because it's the same as if you go on like FlightAware, whatever it is, flight radar 24. Like that's essentially ADS. It's ADSB out. It's the airplane's reporting to you. But this is my
automatic dependent surveillance broadcast.
There you go.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
So it's in. So you're getting the information into your airplane from what everyone else is doing. And that's the same way as if you're looking on those apps or whatever and seeing who's flying over your house, or, what C-130 just buzzed you on a low level. Like that's what you're looking at. It's the same thing. But so there's different levels of how that can be built into the newer equipment. Like we're saying, it comes out from the factory, but there's some fix that the NTSB is talking about that could be as low as $50,000, where there's some like update that you can do to the airplane. So the cost is relatively low. And I don't know specifically what it said. The article wasn't really talking about all that, but it's a situational awareness tool that could just be like completely open, a game changer as far as like who you see that's out there. And the biggest thing that it plays into was the accident on the Potomac that we saw, about a year ago, which is like, if they saw that helicopter, maybe the helicopter saw the American Eagle flight, that would have been different. Or there's so many more things that come into it that you could be like, wow, it's a game changer situationally, awareness wise, knowing who's out there.
But the big question, you know how it is, who's going to pay for it?
Yeah. $50,000 to me doesn't sound like a lot, especially in the airline game when they're losing $50,000 a day, an hour. Who knows what's going on with these companies? But
we talked about how razor thin their margins are,
Yeah, so I think this is something to keep an eye on, and I want to give a shout out to Craig, my buddy Craig. He hit us on the text line with that. So hey, if you got a topic that you want to talk about, hit us on the text line. I gave it out earlier. I'll give it out again. 203-699-6792. Go ahead and hit that number 203-699-6792. We'll hit all the plugs at the bottom too. But again, thanks Craig for shouting that out. And I think that's a big relevant thing. And I thought it was going to be a good topic. And we'll bring it up on Ian when we talk to him again to see what he thinks, how that could provide help for him as far as a controller.
I'm sure they would love it just because it gives them a little bit of a backup. Like, I love having backup. Doesn't mean it's going to do his job. It just means you got another set of eyes helping you out.
Yeah.
So,
stories from the road. I just jumpseated back home last week to Southwest. It was no big deal. I came back on Delta. Southwest was pretty good jumpseating now with the assigned seating, because there were like 40 open seats, and the gate agent just gave me a seat, just handed me the thing right there, which is so much better than when you're there like, just go find an open seat, and you'd be like, oh my God. Like, and then everyone in the back is like switching seats, and you don't know if you just sat in between the family feud. Like, I don't know. Just give me the number of the seat. I'll sit down where it says, and we're good to go.
I think the better story on the road for you is, what about your little scare at your crash pad?
When the guy was here in the nighttime.
Yeah. Was there another one that I don't know about?
No, there was another guy that came too, but he was more announced, I think. But he kept showing back up. He'd say goodbye to me. He'd be like, I'm out of here, man. And then next thing you know, he's back sleeping on the couch. And I'm like, why is he not gone? I don't know. And that's the thing with crash pad people too, is like, don't try to figure out their lives. Just expect someone to be here all the time. So I'm in this house by myself. It's a 4-bedroom house. Like, it's a big house. And I mean, I don't know what's going on here. So I go to bed, and I think I went to bed at like 11 or something. And I'm like, no one's coming, right? And I was sleeping. It was like 1 o'clock, and I heard like footsteps and like a thump. And I was like, huh? And then I saw like a light turn on and a shadow. The only defense I have here, Mike, is to run out the front door. That's all I have. I'm not trained in martial arts. I don't have weapons here. No, I'm out, baby. It's fright and flight, baby. That's it. Double whammy. Out the door.
Usually in crash pads, they're busy enough that you kind of, if you saw that, you wouldn't think anything of it. But it's been a ghost town there for you. So
Yeah, there's no one here. All these guys are triple guys, and their schedules are on the thing. And I don't think anybody's supposed to be here till I leave again. I'm gonna leave this weekend again, so I don't know. But anyways,
If
the guy I
Mississippi,
saw him.
if Mississippi was closer to Florida, I'd show up in a clown suit.
Oh, I'd be gone. I'd drop on request from training. I'd go try to get a job somewhere else closer to home. No more crash pads. Yeah, so that's that. Like, you had a good story. Speaking of ghosts and ghostly, spooky things, that was an
Yeah.
eerie picture that you sent
I
me.
just got back from Puerto Rico, and we have multiple crew hotels down there, as do multiple airlines. There's airlines all over San Juan and stuff. But we stayed at the Condado, and back in the 70s, the Walindas, the circus tightrope walking family, the grandfather was doing an act, and I guess some gusty winds caught him, and he fell between the two buildings of this hotel plaza, and he fell to the pavement, and that's where he died. And there's videos of it. And I didn't know that's where we were staying, but there's like a plaque on the wall. It's like, this is where he went out. And I'm like, this is kind of creepy. I can see it from the balcony in my hotel room. Like, that's X marks the spot, like.
What's more creepy is there's that like walkway that goes across the between the two hotels, which is like pretty much like ghostly showing his tightrope area. I don't know. That's creepy.
Yeah. But that's what we'll talk about. We'll have to do. We mentioned it for the Halloween episode last year. We should do like haunted hotels or whatever. We'll throw in some ghost story hotel things. And
that
come
one's
October of this year.
Yeah, that.
As far as I know, he doesn't haunt the place. I haven't heard that story, but that's where he died. Right there between the two hotels.
Yeah, I never heard the story that he was like his ghost is seen there either. But I've
the grandson. I think he's still. I don't know if he's still active, but he's done some stuff recently. Like, I think he just walked across the Grand Canyon a few years ago, and he walked one of the wheels. I don't know if it was like the Ferris wheel in Vegas or the Ferris wheel in Orlando, or maybe it was the London Eye. I don't remember, but he like walked across it or something. So they're still active. It's like a family of tightrope walkers. So they've been around for a long time. The walking
not all like Derek. Does Derek Jeter have any kids?
I don't think so, but don't quote me. I wouldn't bet on it.
I don't think there's any guarantee that Aaron Judge does, but there's no guarantee that his kid's going to be an MLB star.
Yeah, so they're like 3-4 generations deep of tightrope walkers.
Yeah, I think it's a rarity that you see such continuity in professional.
But that video, man, and I sent it to you. It's kind of creepy because you see him and you can see like he knows he's going. You know what I mean? Like, you ever have a moment where you're like about to fall and you're like, oh, the heck with it, and you just fall. Like, maybe hopefully it's into a couch or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, usually like I'm on the diving board and I've like tried to set up for a cannonball incorrectly.
I just can't imagine he's doing that from 100 feet above a street. I mean, like.
I think there was something to it too. Like, he didn't want to do it, but they were like, kind of like, come on, just do it.
Because they had like all the TV stations there and everything else. I think it was like a big deal.
Yeah, and I don't think he wanted to do it. And
it was windy.
The wire was bad. Yeah, it's not good, and it's not even good. It's even worse that you get to sit and look. You sent me that picture. I was like, even I got chills. I knew what it was.
Yeah, I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like it, Mike. I like that's a good setup for our Halloween episode.
6 months from now, 4 months from now.
We have to line up some guests from that. Somebody was telling me that. Do you ever Dan Tosh has a I think it's Dan Tosh. Is that his name? Or Tosh?
Dude, should we dress up for a Halloween show? Like, wear costumes? Yeah, I know Daniel. I mean, I don't know Daniel Tosh, but he's from Orlando. He went to UCF.
Yeah, I think he opens his show with like, "Do you believe in ghosts?" That's like the first thing he asks somebody. If they say yes, he's like, "Oh, forget it. This is over." Like, that's the end of it. But we'll have to line up some guests for the show. Maybe we can find. We're gonna get a psychic. Wouldn't that be fun to have a psychic on the show? I don't know any psychics.
We'll have to get someone to pretend to be.
Look at the lighting in the back of my studio. It's gone out. We can't even see Wilson anymore. It's getting late. I didn't turn on the rest of the lights in my studio.
Crash pad life.
Yeah, I texted Jay and I was like, oh, he's like, where are you? I said, I just got home. He's like, you went home to Connecticut? I was like, I guess I'm at home, like the crash pad. He's like, that's not your home. I'm like, you're right. It
feels like home.
It's not my home. Nicole, I'm sorry. This is not my home. It's not.
You can go snuggle with Wilson.
Wilson! That's how we should close every show now when I'm here. All right, Mike, let's put a wrap in this one, and I will see you again on another episode of the Black Box Aviation.
Good luck in training, man.
All right, man, thanks.
You've been listening to the Black Box Aviation Podcast. Real pilots, real stories, and aviation news the way it's actually talked about in the cockpit. If you like what you heard, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss an episode. Until next time, keep the blue side up, and we'll see you at altitude.